you how to sew a dart now. Now, there are two different kinds of darts you will come across. You will come across one that looks like a V, and this is one that usually has a point inside the garment and has the external dart legs around the edge of a fabric, be it maybe the waistline, the center front, the neckline, the side seam. You will have a V like that. The other type of dart you will find is what you will find in the middle of a dress, which looks like a diamond. And of course, if you split this into two, let's say for example you have a seam here, you have a V on the top and a V at the bottom. So the interesting thing is all your marks are on the pattern. I need to show you how to transfer the marks from the pattern itself onto the garment underneath. So I'll start off with this first one here. So I have my chalk here, and it's very important to get a very sharp point on your chalk so that you can get defined lines. So first things first, I will take my pin and push at the points of the dart, like that and like that. When I do that, I turn it over and then I use my chalk to mark out on those points, like that, like that. Now remember that you have two sides to your garment, so I lift my paper slightly like that to release the other side as well, and then I mark out the dart as well. And then when I do that, I lift this out all the way, and then I mark out the last dart. I typically don't take off all my pattern because I might want to do this for quite a few, and I don't want to make mistakes. I take my ruler and I draw my straight line. And of course I already know how to draw a straight line, but let me turn this over and mark the other line as well, and like that as well. Now this is what you do, right? So I've opened it up. I will fold. Some people go and steam on that line. I really don't like steaming. I will just fold and ensure that I have a pin at the tip of this dart. That's the first one, like that. And then for the second one, I will push the pin into this point here, the first point, and make sure it comes out at the other point on the other side, like that, right? And then I fold it over and pin it that way. Now depending on how you're going to sew, I will most likely sew like that. So really I should be pinning from this side. So I'll just take out my pin and do that again, so that as I'm sewing, you can see it's not falling on the line on the other side. So I need to move this so it falls directly on that point on the other side. And then it looks that way. So as I'm sewing, I can be taking out my pins. Then you go on this line, make sure it goes in, and then you move the other side so that it's on the line and it's on the line. Like this, and like that on the other side. And then you pin it in place so that you're actually sewing on the line. So when I'm done with this, I'll do the same for the other side, and then I'll sew it. Now let me show you how to pin the other dart before we get to the sewing machine. So I'm going to do the same thing, the exact same thing that I have just done. Mark my 4 points, but leave one pin in place as your guide, like that. Mark out your points, like that. Of course, I lift over, mark this, mark these two, and the last one. Take out your pins, and then draw your straight line. And we are ready to sew. So I'll pin just one side, similar to what I've just done. I pin this point here. I take the other one as well. I pin that way. I pin the middle as well. Make sure you're using sharp dressmaker pins. So I pin like that. You can see it's not hitting that point. So I need to lift this and navigate till this hits this point, like that. I pin these others as well. You can use as many and as few pins as you want. It goes in like that, navigate, hit the line, and then now we'll go to the sewing machine, and then you just simply sew on this line. So let me show you how to sew around a dart. You actually don't reverse here or here. So I'll show you how to sew on a dart and how to finish it off. Okay, so I'm at my sewing machine now and I am ready to sew my dart. I've already sewn one part. I'm back to sew the second part now. The trick behind sewing a dart is you're not supposed to sew through the point of the dart. However, because this portion might be going into the allowance, I can always reverse that. It's not going to show. So I don't need my seam guide now because I don't have the same allowance I'm working with. So I'm going to take that out of the way. And of course, we already know how to sew straight lines. I sew 3 stitches, reverse, and then I sew right back on the line, and I sew on my straight line. I'm taking out my pins and I'm sewing. Now, because you're not supposed to reverse at the tip of a dart, in the event whereby, say for example, you are sewing chiffon and chiffon is very thin, right? The fabric is very thin. So reversing on chiffon, especially at the point of your dart, might actually rip the chiffon or other softer fabric. So what you do is you sew through the dart, and that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to sew through the point of the dart like that, and then I lift and I pull out a bit of thread without reversing at that point. I will explain to you why I'm doing that. And I cut. So you need that thread hanging at the end there earlier. So it's time for me to sew the second dart, which is typically what you find in like a dress, which is what I would call for ease, I'll call it the diamond. So before I start, I will pull out some thread. Remember, for the other dart we had to leave some thread at the bottom when we were done. So I'll leave some here as well. And then, similar to what I said, you don't sew or reverse at the point of a dart, especially when you're sewing very thin fabrics. If it was denim, perhaps you can, but this is the right way to sew a dart. Sew through the dart. So I'm going to start off, and I'll take my first stitch and be sure I'm at the point of the dart. Take out the pin as you get to that point. Similar to how we showed you how to sew a corner, you will sew when you get to that point. Remember, it's a diamond. You lift, leave your needle down and turn, and then you continue sewing. If it's getting out of the way, you just re-navigate. And then when you get to the point of the second dart, you sew through that dart as well. And we are done. Leave some thread and cut. We're done sewing the dart. You can see that on both sides it's straight here, right on the line, and on the line as well on both sides. So remember, I had already sewn one side, so I had reversed it because this portion is most likely going into the allowance. Now, for the part that I said you should leave a thread, this is what you simply do. You take a hand sewing needle, you separate the points of both threads. I will tie a knot to secure it, like that. You can do it twice. I like to do it like 3 or 4 times just to be absolutely certain. And after I'm done tying my knot, I will pass the ends of my thread, but you can see that I have 2 extremely uneven ends here. So I will just cut it like that at an angle, and then pass it through my needle. Pass it that way, right? And then I will take my fabric and will push the needle through the dart. It mustn't come out on any side. It must only come out through the center of the dart, like that. And then I pass it through and pull the end of the thread through the center of the dart. The reason you're doing that is so that when you break your thread, it doesn't unravel. And then that knot, you push it through. You will hear it click. And once you've done that, that's it. You can now cut off this bit. You'll see that this bit comes out at the center of the dart. Then I can now take my scissors and cut it like that. And it disappears in between the darts. So that is how to finish off the point of the dart. And then when you're done doing that, you go to the ironing board and you steam it. So when you go to the ironing board to steam it, you will steam it on your pressing ham. You can see this is what the dart looks like. You can already see the 3D effect of it coming up. You know, that's how it's going to fit around your body. And then you place it on top. As you can see, that's why you have a curve for your pressing ham. And then you steam it towards the center with your steam iron. So let me quickly go and steam it and I'll be back now. And that is how you sew your dart. That's what it looks like on this side. And that's what it looks like on the other side. Make sure you steam it so that there's no fold happening along that side. Yeah, so that's it. So that's how to steam your dal.